Thank you so much for joining me today on the My Bourbon Journey Whiskey Review channel. Today we're going to be diving into something very special. So this from Wild Turkey, this is their Master's Keep 17-year bottled and bond. This is coming in at 100 proof or 50% ABV. Mash bill on this is going to be their conventional mash bill, 75% corn, 13% rye, 12% malted barley, and again it is age stated as 17 years old. And the MSRP on this one is going to be $175. So very typical or traditional with the Master's Keep lineup. They're all within that $175 to $200 range. So specifically with this release here in 2020, there were approximately 14,400 bottles, and these were all pulled or aged in the Camp Nelson rickhouse. So typically what I try to do with my reviews is we'll go through the appearance, we'll nose it, taste it, and then get into anything else having to do with the whiskey itself. So, all right, let's go ahead and we'll get into the review. So as you can see, really nice kind of deep, dark, amber type of color on that. I move it around the glass a little bit. You're definitely picking up some of the oils. Not a huge amount of oil on the glass, but a fair amount. And again, at 100 proof, you're expecting to see some oils on there. But and then secondary is moving the whiskey around in the glass a little bit, just to help introduce a little bit of air to it, let it kind of open up. Typically, that's going to translate over to the profile or the palate, and hoping that this really kind of improves with a little bit of airtime. And generally speaking, that is the case. So, all right, let's go ahead and we'll get into the nose here. So right away, there's this really nice, rich, like bold, like fresh caramel note to it. Even a bit of like a graham cracker type of nose. Nice baking chocolate on it, so not super sweet, but there's more of that kind of like bitter, but it's letting you know that there is some chocolate that's there. Definitely some dark fruits. A little bit of a nutty characteristic to it. Really nice baking spice on this one. Almost like a sweet cornbread note as well. And then the oak that you're getting on this is again a little bit of that dusty or that kind of fresh oak type of note. Something that you're going to get on an aged whiskey, just because it's been in the barrel for upwards of 17 years or longer. And you're getting that kind of that richness from the oak that's there, that barrel tannin. So you're getting kind of that old, like dusty type of turkey note on it. Yeah, again, still some of that nuttiness that's there. Very light cinnamon. And then something else I get is there's this like grape aspect to it, a little bit of like a grapiness, almost like there's like a finishing aspect on it, but it's just a slight bit of like grape that's there. We'll see if that translates over to the palate. So, all right. More importantly, let's see how this tastes. Cheers. So let's take another sip, kind of just coating the palate a little bit. We'll see what we've got. So again, immediately you're hit with this bold spice, this bold baking spice. That oak presence is there, and then quickly gets a little bit sweeter. So there's still that rich caramel note that I was getting on the nose before. Again, that baking chocolate, a little bit more of that bitterness that's kind of combining with that oak that's there. And again, it's still a bit of that older oak, so that kind of like I don't want to say like pungent, but it's a bold oak that's there. There's kind of like some of that dusty aspect to it of like an older whiskey that's been aged, in a barrel for a while. Still some of that sweetness, those vanillas, the caramels again come out there right away. Was that rich caramel note was really nice. Still some of that nutty aspect to it. some of the dryness begins to come in a little bit. So for me, you start to get a little bit of those leathers and tobaccos, the things you associate with kind of the dryness of something. And that's always something I pick up anytime the dryness of something starts to kind of kick in, is those leathers and tobaccos become a little bit more kind of prominent. Yeah, and then kind of like finishing or kind of rounding out that part of it, you're still getting some of that sweet corn, or that like a sweet cornbread type of aspect to it. Very nice. I mean, it coats the mouth extremely well. The finish, I'd say, is nice and long. It definitely lets you know there's some age with it, especially with the amount of oak presence that's there. I would say that if this went a little bit longer, for me, would probably start to get on the over oaked side of things. But for me, this is probably a nice balance. I think maybe with them proofing it down to 100, that might have taken away some of that barrel tannin that would have been maybe allowing it to be over oak. So I think maybe for this one, with it being 17 years and proof down to 100, I think a little bit of that water may have done this one some justice, actually. But yeah, it's very rich and complex. Again, very long finish. And then there's that little bit of a grapey aspect to it that I was getting on the nose. Just kind of came in a little bit late there on the palate. But yeah, I would say as you kind of get into the finish is nice and long. Again, very mouth coating. It definitely is leaving a little bit of that dryness that's there. So some of the leathers, the tobaccos are there. Some of that kind of that sweet cornbread aspect to it. Light cinnamon that's there. Again, some of that, like, you know, darker berries of some sort. Nothing I can totally pick out in terms of a specific one. There's just that dark, rich fruit aspect to it. Again, still some of that lingering baker's chocolate that I always associate with a little slight bitterness that's there. Not overly sweet, but still there's that sweet cornbread, still some of the vanillas, the caramels. So in terms of its overall like complexity, I would say it's very good. I like that the finish is super long, you know, with it, and it's allowing it to just really linger there. That's one nice thing that I'm really liking about this one. So there you have it. So this again is the Wild Turkey Master's Keep 17-year bottled in bond. I think they've done a really nice job with this one. Now, in terms of value, you know, is this worth $175? Again, that's up to you to pay that. I think it's a very good, you know, bourbon in value nowadays. That's, you know, it's always an argument between a lot of people. So, however, with that being said, with the amount of bourbons that have gotten to the point where you're into that $150 to $200 price point, I would say with the quality of this, it's fitting right within that category. It's a very good bourbon. So hopefully that helps you, and if you were trying to decide on whether or not this was something that you wanted to pick up, I do think there's that nice overall complexity. You get that kind of typical turkey kind of profile that's there. So I love their mash bill. I love that 75% corn and 13 rye and 12 malted barley. I think it's a really nice mash bill. Allows for a lot of that sweetness, still some of that lingering spice that's there, and the malted barley just kind of kicks everything else off. So with that being said, thank you so much for tuning into another one of my reviews. I greatly appreciate it. If you've had this, leave a comment below. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on it, you know, how you enjoyed it. Were you getting some of the things I was getting on it as well? I'm always interested to hear people's feedback on the particular whiskeys that I'm reviewing. So thanks again for tuning into another one of my reviews. Again, you can like, subscribe, all of that is greatly appreciated. If you'd like to find me on some other social medias, you can through Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of those places. If you'd like to help support or contribute to the channel, that would be greatly appreciated. you can find the link in the description below to my Patreon page. So with that being said, and like I say, remember, it's about the journey and not the destination. Cheers.